Hey guys, welcome back to the Outside Regions. This is the show where you're probably not gonna like what we say. I'm your host, Ross, joined as always by Tait with our new podcast name.
Ross, great intro, man, but we are the Outer Regions.
Outer Regions.
Not outside anymore.
Outside Regions. Outer Regions, all of the regions, unknown regions. Guys, you got a problem? Unknown regions, Tait.
So I want to give
all of the regions.
I want to give a little background on this name because I quite like this name, and Ross, I know you quite like this name. So Ross and I, we're big Star Wars fans. You guys know that. Come on, I mean, why else do you tune into this show? We really dislike the way they're handling Palpatine right now. We really dislike the outer regions, or the
unknown regions. I'm telling you, man, it's too many regions.
There's so many regions. We thought we'd add one more: outer rim, outer regions, outside regions, whatever you want to call us. We're here with our new name, our new aesthetic. Things are looking good, man. We have a great
After
show.
36 episodes, we finally landed on this name. And it kind of works because the unknown regions excuse for just anything randomly appearing in Star Wars is hilarious. So it's a play on that. It's a play on how most of our opinions are unpopular and kind of outside or, in another region.
Exactly.
I guess something like that. I don't know.
I want to start by saying, so we are going to do Mando episode 7 today and Rise of Skywalker full review. If you post spoilers in the comments, before the spoiler section, you will be kicked from the stream.
Yeah, please don't. There's still people who have not seen Rise of Skywalker, even though honestly, having it spoiled, it's not a rewarding experience whether you've got it spoiled or not. It's not a great film, and we will get into that later. But Tait,
let's just jump into it. All right.
There it is. Phil DeFranco has joined us today.
Yes. To answer your question, Golden Light. So outer regions, like Ross was saying, it's kind of a play on the unknown regions and kind of how they use that as an excuse for random things happening. So essentially, we're going with that. Also, I made this really cool planet design. That's our logo, and we kind of used that to help guide us. Kind of went with the whole Star Wars motif. Let's just jump into it.
Oh my God, he did it again!
So let's start by talking Mando Ep 7. We're just going to talk about this briefly because we do want to hop into Rise of Skywalker.
We talked about Endgame earlier this year for 3 hours, so
we're kind of allotting ourselves that time for. Ross and I, we did have a 2-hour conversation after we both saw the movie.
Oh yeah,
it won't be that much of a. Maybe it won't be a 3-hour long because the Endgame podcast was really the first time we sat down and talked about it. So this might be a little bit abridged compared to the Endgame. But yeah, let's just start with Mando because holy crap, did we get a great episode this week?
Tait, this episode was, as I've been saying, the full package. I mean, when my buddies and I were standing in the Winchester Arena in Celebration Chicago, and they brought out the cast, and Pedro Pascal's there with Carl Weathers and Gina Carano, and they're talking about the series. Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are talking about how great the three of them are and how great they're going to be throughout season 1. I didn't think that they would be in only half of the first season. I thought they would be together for most of it, or that they would be recurring characters. I think that sure, it is more rewarding getting to the end and now having them all finally assemble for an episode like this, and obviously the finale at the end of the week. But man, this is the episode that we all signed up for, that we were all promised. And so finally, after about 3 episodes of just not really doing a whole lot, and one episode being a total misfire, this was just such a huge refresher, because I mean, they're all so fantastic in this episode. You have story developments galore. You've got all the characters together with fantastic chemistry, bouncing off of one another. I mean, just some of the greatest visuals. I mean, Deborah Chow and her directing style, I can't wait to see what she does with Obi-Wan. I mean, Episode 7 and Episode 3 of The Mandalorian are just absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, no, they are by far, in my opinion, the 2 best episodes of the series.
100%.
Next week, when we get the season finale, we will be going through the entire series and kind of talking through each episode. So this might be a little light, but we do have Rise of Skywalker to talk about. So positives in this episode, of course, the chemistry in the cast. Of course, seeing this big looming threat. I mean, Moff Gideon. Wow, what an absolute force of nature here. But yeah, kind of closing thoughts on Mando Ep 7, Ross?
I think The Mandalorian, if the series can continue with episodes like this and keep up a momentum and only do filler episodes that serve the overall structure of the next season, The Mandalorian will be in really good shape. If we never have something like episode 5 again, and we never have something like episode 6 again, that, while still great, doesn't move the story forward at all in the slightest, I think if they can do more episodes like these and then have the smaller episodes still be intentional and important to the narrative, at least to some small extent, The Mandalorian, I think, can just really make the most of its potential, because they've already, I would say, with season 1, gotten 65% of the way there with just this first attempt, with these first 8 episodes that they did. I am still cautious, obviously, especially, with all things Star Wars, especially after Rise of Skywalker. But The Mandalorian has been really a huge gift to the overall franchise that with Rise of Skywalker they really needed.
Yeah, I want to say in closing that we didn't really get these team up episodes before because we needed introductions to these characters, and I really appreciate the way the series has been structured thus far. How it does give us introductions. Season 1 needs to be introductory, of course, for our main cast, which our main cast, of course, is Mando, Baby Yoda, and Cara Dune, right? We do get that, and I'm assuming IG-11 is going to join the team in episode 8. But anyway, these characters were built up in the earlier episodes of the season. Kind of lost that momentum with 5 and 6. Really lost it with 5. But now that we have these characters developed and we have these characters introduced, I mean, we just need to develop them. So in season 2, I feel like we get a lot more of these team up episodes. These really solid ensemble cast kind of situations, which I really appreciate now.
Yeah, and I would kind of almost like to get away from the idea of it being an ensemble cast. I would like for them to be the cast and all work together in each episode and find new ways to make each of their stories compelling together as a team instead of just Mando and Baby Yoda for all of season 2. I think the cast needs to be recurring as that's basically what was promised. To a small extent, and that I hope will be the case in season 2. But Mando season 1, despite episode 5, has been already, before we've even gotten to the finale, just an absolute gift, like we said. So
yeah, this is my favorite live action show. I mean, period. That's just,
well, damn. You mean active and ongoing right now?
Yeah, no. This is my favorite show, and we only have 6 good episodes. I mean, it's a testament, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I hope there will be more episodes like this, and yeah, I'm looking forward to finally making a custom Mandalorian. I've already got I'll look at some Lego Mandalorian. I've already got a 3D printed Baby Yoda piece with the little floating cradle coming in from a really cool 3D printing customizer on Instagram. So that will definitely happen at some point. I'm just getting through my current Rise of Skywalker showcase featuring a brand new custom Rey and updated Kylo Ren helmet. And I'm actually working on Rey's new Skywalker saber. But yeah, that's not a spoiler either. I'm just talking about making like an updated Anakin saber to give her, so that I'm not pulling it from another figure. But that's all Lego talk and stuff like that. But
let's just.
No! He's gonna do it!
Let's talk Rise of Skywalker. All right, Ross, here we go. It is time to jump down the rabbit hole. We are going to be talking non-spoilers, probably for like 4 or 5 minutes, because there's a lot of spoilers.
Yeah, you can only really talk about this film for so long without just having to do spoilers.
Yeah, so we're going to try to keep this going, this non-spoiler section, for at least a little while. So stick around. If you haven't seen the movie, we will be, of course, as always, switching the graphic as soon as we start talking about spoilers.
Yeah.
Please don't spoil in the comments right now, in the chat right now. As soon as we switch to the spoiler section, say whatever you want about the movie. But yeah, for now, Ross, non-spoilers. Give us your take on the movie in 3 words.
That was bad.
And then my 3 words are, fuck you, Disney. All right, Ross, you have the floor, sir.
Listen, man, where do you even begin when talking about the culminating Star Wars film, the end of the Skywalker saga, the end of the sequel trilogy as started all those years ago, as it began with all of that potential in 2015, all of those promises with the super solid film that was The Force Awakens? Where do you begin with how south things went beginning in 2017 and culminating in the worst of ways in 2019? I mean, Rise of Skywalker, while maintaining consistency with the cast and just the most amazing performances that Daisy Ridley, Adam Driver, John Boyega have delivered for these films.
All the actors in the movie.
The whole cast doing great in this film. Some of the greatest visual effects ILM has contributed to not even just Disney-era Star Wars, but I would argue even just the industry overall. There are some absolutely stunning sequences all throughout this film, and just some really compelling scenes, some really emotional scenes, some really powerful scenes. Believe it or not, there is a lot to love in The Rise of Skywalker, but it is such a broken, rushed, half-assed mess that it's honestly heartbreaking, because you had the perfect cast with the sequel trilogy. You had the perfect actors to shepherd the series forward, shepherd Star Wars forward into the future, and to see it end like this, to just fizzle out with what is essentially a damage control film, to just essentially close everything out with a ridiculous, absolutely absurd, half-assed storyline that hopefully won't upset people, I think is really a shame that it even got to this point, and it's really a shame that there was absolutely really no plan followed through consistently throughout this trilogy. I really thought they were capable of more.
So the biggest downfall of Rise of Skywalker is that it does not feel like a Star Wars movie. It feels like a generic space romp, and if you're judging it as a generic space romp, as a entertaining, as a piece of entertainment for 3 hours, it's fine. It's flashing colors on a screen, but it doesn't have substance. It doesn't have substance. Doesn't feel like Star Wars. It's very generic Disney movie. It has all of the Disney tropes in the movie. And honestly, not only am I kind of losing my grasp on Star Wars, but I've completely lost my grasp on Disney. I'm sick of every single movie I watch feeling like it's pandering to 11-year-olds. Right? They're making these movies for the generation before ours, the 8-year-olds, the 12-year-olds. So those 8 and 12-year-olds buy more Disney products as they grow up, right? So we're in this spot where our childhood was built on good Disney movies, on Pixar. So we love Disney as an age group, right? A huge issue is that they're taking the things that we love in those movies and making them the entire movie. The family dynamics, the hope, the pride, all of these things to just pander, as opposed to it being natural. Like, think of the movie Up. That movie starts with a death. That movie starts, the main character is depressed the whole movie, but it has an optimistic ending. Instead of giving us the duality, the growth, they're just giving us that end, that hope and love, and all the stakes feel manufactured, nothing feels natural, and it's just really, really frustrating.
I think Jeremy Jahns, believe it or not, put it really well. There's a difference between bold decisions and just being desperate. I mean, it really feels like the whole time you're watching it, or at least maybe not if you're while you're watching it, but the moment you reflect on a second of it, the moment you reflect on any of this film, the moment you turn your brain back on, this film is, I mean, it does not survive when put against any common reason, when put against any basic logic. It really feels like J.J. Abrams and Chris Terrio came in and wrote this begrudgingly. It really feels like, and especially on the press tour, it's like they made this film begrudgingly, like it was a chore. Like they did something great with The Force Awakens, but then a mess was created after, and they're just coming in to mop it up. I mean, and that's not just, we're not. It sucks, man, because I otherwise believed in JJ's vision. I mean, to talk about unpopular opinions, man, I actually really liked JJ's Star Trek films. I loved them, actually. I've loved a lot of the work J.J. Abrams has done, and of course, The Force Awakens promised so much. And to get to this point and to watch the story so completely fall apart because they had to be reactionary, just so that it reached some kind of reasonable conclusion, just barely. It's like the, like I kind of said in my video that I posted on my main channel. It's like you're on a train ride, man, and the tracks are broken. So you're the whole ride is bumpy as hell, and then you just fall completely. The train just goes off a bridge at the end, and it's a shame. So either way, Rise of Skywalker is an exciting mess. It's an exciting mess. And I think, have you guys not been able to hear Tait? I'll definitely have to check in on the chat now because Tait is
Ross,
informing me.
They could hear me. I just had to go do some stuff, so I wanted to let you know that I was
okay,
I was
gotcha.
in OBS, yeah.
Cool, man.
I'm back. I'm good. Sorry to disrupt your thought process.
No, dude, but yeah, guys, I mean, you see, like, Nicola down in the chat here is saying he fanboyed throughout the whole movie, and I think that's really it, right? J.J. Abrams and Chris Terrio, with the help of all the thousands of people who worked on the film, they managed to craft an exciting experience so that even though the film's story is awful, even though it's ridiculous and absurd and broken, you can still go watch this movie with your family, with a group of friends, get some excitement out of it. It is a just smash and grab, rushed, bam, 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 gotta go to, just go in all the worst of ways, start to finish. But at least you can be excited while watching it because they present you with visuals, they present you with impactful moments, whether it makes sense or not. It's at least a relatively decent crowd-pleasing experience.
I want to word it this way, right? This movie does everything an audience wants to see. They want to see high-octane action, and they want to see their heroes succeed, right? Yeah. There's a lot of elements about this movie that aren't even part of filmmaking, right? They finally brought the team together that they forced this team together. This was never a team because they had never come together until this movie, right? But that was something the fans really enjoyed. So finally seeing an analogous team, right? Instead of going through the whole trilogy without the Padme, Anakin, Obi-Wan, without the Han Solo, Leia, Luke, they finally get that. So that's number one on the list. They finally get their team. Number two is of course the high octane action. Seeing these huge lightsaber fights. I mean, we get so many lightsaber fights in this movie compared to the rest of the trilogy.
Oh yeah,
way more.
I mean, that's a big thing with this film too. The one or two lightsaber fights in the film are pretty fantastic. I don't think it's a spoiler to say the main one doesn't have a John Williams track to pair with it.
Yeah,
So it's very strange and very empty feeling, but still exciting nonetheless.
Right.
But just a very bizarre choice to not have music for the final duel of the Skywalker saga.
Right. But anyway, kind of continuing the thought process. So you have, number one, you have the team, you have these characters that people have been wanting, you have high octane action, and you have quick pace. And a big thing with our generation especially is that we have extremely short attention spans. So hitting us over the head with action is what we want. A lot of people I saw complain that Endgame was too slow, and that didn't make any sense to me. But they kind of redacted that and rethought that with this movie. And then of course, you get the motifs of love and hope and family and those motifs there. It's just the perfect movie for the general audience. But that doesn't make it a good piece of cinema. Right? Cinema should be each movie should subvert your expectation of a movie. And I know that sounds extremely pretentious and almost like that can never happen, but each movie should be different. It should give you something new, and it should give you something you're not expecting in order to really do its job and to drive the medium forward. And this movie just feels like the safest possible Star Wars movie anyone could make. And that's what The Force Awakens felt like as well. It's just extremely safe. It doesn't do anything to move the medium forward. It's just a Star Wars movie, and it's just the most basic Star Wars movie possible. We were watching Empire Strikes Back, and that movie ends on an absolute lull. I mean, holy crap. Imagine seeing your character fail over and over and over again, and then fail at his final task. That is insane. We don't get that with these movies. We get the Mary Sue. We get the Gary Sue. We get, what is it? Is it Gary Sue? I don't know. I don't remember.
Gary Stew, I think is what they call it.
Stew. You get two Gary Stews. You get Faux Pin. Faux and Pin?
Faux Pin!
Jesus Christ.
Faux Pin!
You get Poe and Finn. Oh my god. And then you get Mary Sue with Rey. I mean, this is just an action movie with characters that can't die, with a narrative that can do no wrong. It's inoffensive to the general audience, but it's offensive to me as a film goer. So, I mean, it's a disappointing movie, but it's inoffensive, and it doesn't do anything.
Tait, I'll be honest with you, man. I think even just calling it a Star, just a Star Wars movie, or just saying that they played it safe. I don't think they played it safe. I think JJ and Chris Terrio sat down, they looked at their mess, and they said, "Okay, the ship is crashing. We're going down regardless. How can we mitigate damage? How can we make this go as smoothly as possible?" And then they just looked at things they set up in The Force Awakens, looked at how Rian Johnson butchered them, and were like, okay, well, we'll just say that is that, this is this person is that person, that's what was happening there, that's what we were setting up there, and that's all we can do. That's really what this overall film feels like from just just looking at the script. It's like not even safe. It is desperate. It is just it is defeat.
Well, I think it's pretty safe in the sense of all of the characters are gods. The final battle is about love and hope, right? You have the camaraderie there. All of the I can't say that because we're not in the spoiler section. But,
we'll definitely start
the antagonist is the exact same as he was before. That's a spoiler.
It's not really a spoiler. Palpatine is in the film in some capacity. That's been established.
Right. So he's the same as he was in Return. It's the same Palpatine we've always known. Nothing's changed.
I would say he's far worse than Return.
No. What I'm saying though is he's had no development.
Right, and
that's a problem.
It's like he's not even development, man. It's regression.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's just a Disney mustache twirling villain. I will say that, and it's really offensive, man.
Palpatine's inclusion in this film is not even as good as the Return of the Jedi scenes. I mean, it is the most shallow, soulless portrayal of Palpatine to ever grace the canon timeline. And grace is certainly not the right word. It is just, when you look at every canon piece of Palpatine's storyline, this is by far the weakest. I mean, he like Palpatine's inclusion in this film, it's goofy, it's soulless, it's crap.
Mustache twirling.
And absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
So, I don't really have anything else to say without spoilers, Tate.
Yeah, I don't either. I need to just kind of rant for a bit.
So, if you have not seen The Rise of Skywalker, this is your spoiler warning. If you have not seen The Rise of Skywalker, for the rest of the show, we're going to be talking in depth about the film, the plot, and everything in between. So that's it. You guys have been warned.
Right. Like I said, you may now commence spoilers in the chat. All right. So Here we go. Let's just go for it. I need to say that this movie just felt so bare minimum to me. It really did. It felt like bright lights on a screen. It's bright lights on a screen, and it's
literally strobe lights on a screen.
Right? Yeah. It's mustache twirling villain. It's everything I dislike about big boy cinema, you know, and it's really unfortunate. It really takes me out of the experience, and it's just this just feels like a last ditch effort to fix their mistakes. I don't think they did a good job of that. Anyway, I mean, this movie breeds a lot of frustration within me, and it goes to show that George Lucas, say what you will about George Lucas, right? Say what you will about his writing and whatnot. The man can't write dialogue, but he can write a story. You know, he can write a consistent story that makes sense. As atrocious as, I mean, Ross, I'm sorry, but I think Attack of the Clones is an awful film. I've expressed that. As awful as Attack of the Clones is,
I think, yeah,
it ushers the story forward in a natural way. It has a lot of pacing issues, but the overall narrative makes sense. Right? This movie, The Last Jedi, The Force Awakens, they feel disingenuous. They feel very corporate, very safe. I don't go to Star Wars to see hope and love and these very 8-year-old emotions. You know, I go in there to see a romanticized fantasy. I go in to see an amazing story. You know, an amazing story with just an incredible sense of wonder. That's what I look for in Star Wars. And to me, that is what Empire Strikes Back, Revenge of the Sith, those films deliver. Those films are Star Wars at its best, and I didn't feel the same. I didn't feel the same thing with Rise at all. Even like I said, even Star Wars, where the more technical parts of a movie are not there. Like Attack of the Clones, like Phantom Menace, at least it ushers the story in a believable way. I just rewatched the prequels. I love Phantom Menace. I don't know why I do. It's a horrible film, but I like it.
Listen, man.
Right?
I'm never going to go as far as to say any of the prequels are horrible. They have horrible elements. They have horrible dialogue in various areas. They have horrible structuring for like a third of each of those films. But I mean, not Revenge of the Sith, just Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. But no, I mean, this film, if you want to talk pacing, my God, Tate, that was the number one most noticeable thing about Rise of Skywalker. Well, I mean, I don't want to keep regurgitating what everybody else has said. Oh, it's a video game movie. Yeah, it has those elements. But even if you're able to follow along with, gotta go here to get the Wayfinder, gotta go here to get 3PO to read the text, gotta go meet Kylo Ren, gotta go up on that Star Destroyer, gotta go here, gotta go to Exegol, gotta go to Agent Claw. It's madness the whole way through. It is insane. But it's just, I've never seen... There's never been a Star Wars film like this that is just so fast-paced, constantly, go, go, go in all the worst of ways, the whole runtime. And it's very clearly J.J. Abrams and Chris Terrio tried to not just do episode 9. They tried to stuff in their own version of episode 8 really quick and then do episode 9. It is like their own half-assed version of an episode 8 stuffed in with an episode 9 that they don't really like either version of. And if you don't want to go with that analogy, that idea, then it's certainly 3 or 4 films crammed into one. Why they couldn't do a 3-hour film is beyond me. Why they couldn't humble themselves and do a 4th, if possible, which probably wouldn't work out for a variety of major corporate logistical reasons. It's a shame. The whole thing is a shame.
Yeah, there's a point that I brought up to Ross that really is important when analyzing this film. In all stories, the setting is a character, right? The setting, it usually, and if it's executed well, represents the struggles or the events that the characters are going through, right? When you introduce 7 planets in the first 5 minutes, you don't get that. Let's talk about. I think the best example is Empire Strikes Back. You have Hoth, the desolate snow wasteland, where all the odds are everything's at odds. You're at your last. You're having your last stand. You have to get out of there because harm will be brought to you if you don't escape. Hoth represents that it's a snow planet. What does snow breed? Death, of course, because these are freezing temperatures. These are places that are unlivable. And like I said, it's desolate. All hope is lost. Nobody can save you. And then you go to the movie. You have the unknown of space, right? With Han, Leia, Chewie, and C-3PO. You have the unknowns of space. You have the frustrations that the unknown brings. You have the dangers that the unknown brings. Then you have Luke and R2 on Dagobah. Dagobah is this new spiritual and overgrown place that has no information on it. It's new, it's weird, it's unsettling. And then you have Yoda, who lives there, who is also new, weird, unsettling at first. He's confusing. Nothing makes sense in Dagobah, right? As the Force doesn't make sense. Then at the end of the movie, you have Cloud City. It is white. It is pristine. It is a new hope for our characters. They get there and they feel that they are welcome and that they are safe, right?
Yeah.
This is not difficult. This is very, very, very basic. George Lucas put white walls in Cloud City so they would feel comfortable and so the audience would feel comfortable. He put a blizzard on Hoth so we would feel uncomfortable. He put a giant space worm in space to make us uncomfortable, right? It's not very hard. But when you have these flashing between planets, God, you can do that. You can do montages.
And that's it pains me like the way you're describing every one of the planets in Empire so well. It's like, and then you compare that to Rise, and you just have Pisana and Aegon Kloss, another forest planet. We talked about this at length with Pisana, another damn desert planet that they say is plausibly, you're in the deserts of Jordan. Enough, man, enough. And then you get Exegol, and I was expecting a lot more from Exegol.
Dude,
I really was.
It's so dumb.
And Exegol, what is it? It is a dark blue smoky planet. You don't see Exegol. That's all it is. The whole film.
It's a waste.
Every scene. It's nothing. It is just dark. It looks like Starkiller Base. Go back to The Force Awakens. Pull out the oscillator they're all fighting around in The Force Awakens, and you have the same thing. A dark, cold, blue, gray, nothing landscape.
Yeah.
I mean, it's shallow. And in the beginning of the film, you get Mustafar briefly, which was dumb. And again, they're not even willing to say it's Mustafar, so you don't get any text coming up anywhere with any of these locations. Which is fine, not like Star Wars used to do that anyway. I don't know why Rogue One, or why they started doing it to begin with. But the point is, Even Mustafar. They're like, oh, well, if you saw the Vader VR series, you'd know there was a crystal found, and Mustafar started regenerating throughout the original trilogy, and
Ross,
and now, a few decades later, it's like, it's growing back.
Ross, I need to say something really quick.
Sure.
Now, Star Wars has always been, and not always, because the first 3 movies weren't, but since the prequel, Star Wars has always been a multimedia franchise, right? And by that, I mean, it's not just movies, right? There are pieces of extended media that do matter. Now, when you start using that extended media, when you start using that to bolster the movie, to prologue the movie, that's disgusting. That is horrible. So
you know what?
We have Mustafar, and Mustafar has a great story. Right, and I don't think that that's very offensive that Mustafar is growing back. I think they should have showed us a more familiar Mustafar for our sake as fans.
At least one freaking shot.
But oh my god, can we talk about that Palpatine Fortnite event? So
God.
Ross,
My
you
God.
should explain this because it makes you very upset, and I know the fans like to see that.
Tate, it pains me to be this negative about a Star Wars film. It really does. It really. We don't enjoy this.
No,
we don't
it's not-
enjoy being honest. Being honest is not always fun.
You know what was a fun conversation? When we had our Star Wars Celebration special, and we were just praising everything we loved about Star Wars. That's why we're Star Wars fans. We don't want to do this. But these
We're talking
things
about
exist.
the Mandalorian and the potential of the Clone Wars final season. There's so much to love. And so having these honest discussions, it's not fun, but it's honest. And that's really it. And everybody, I think, coming out of The Rise of Skywalker, even those who propped up The Last Jedi, because even they have now been smacked in the face with this film, everyone is being forced to finally be honest about the sequel trilogy coming up on the end of it. And exactly to Tate's point and what you were saying about relying on other mediums instead of your actual film. Guys, anyone listening, if you have not heard, and I think it's a sad day and a shocking thing, and puts us on dark.
It's painful,
This puts us on the darkest timeline for Star Wars. At the beginning of the film, the opening crawl, the dead speak, and they include how Palpatine has issued a message to the galaxy that he has returned. And I was surprised because then I was like, oh, so the film is going to open with everybody's reaction, kind of like General Zod in Man of Steel, everybody's reaction to hearing this message come through the galaxy of Palpatine returning. No, what happens is you get the really fast montage, and then Kylo Ren, right in the first 5 minutes of the film, walks right into Exegol, walks right up to Palpatine. Palpatine, you get that scene, that clip with all the different voices that Palpatine's using, pretty much beat for beat that clip, and him just saying, I killed Snoke, I'll kill you too, and then he walks up on Palpatine's body, just hanging there, talking to him, and Palpatine's back. The movie doesn't even have time to get you to understand or care why Palpatine is back. It doesn't even have time to let you hear that speech. And let me explain this to you. This is a big deal. Palpatine, Darth Sidious, the Emperor of the Galaxy, who through decades of plotting and scheming with his grand plan, took over the galaxy and ruled for 20 years, oppressing an entire galaxy worth of trillions of people. For 20 years, the Sith reigned supreme over the galaxy because of him. And now, he was killed by the Chosen One. Thought dead for 30 years. 3 decades. Has now been out on Exegol amassing armies of thousands and thousands and thousands of people and a fleet full of thousands of ships. And is now returning to the galaxy after thought completely dead for 3 decades. And now sends a message to the galaxy that he is returned, that he is coming back to take over the galaxy with the final order once and for all. And that message is being sent out to the galaxy. Now, I spoke about it this way to just illustrate to anyone listening how important that is, how important of a galactic event that is. That the galaxy's greatest threat is not defeated. that he is coming back, that he will win this time. And that message that he delivered to the galaxy was played in Fortnite. In Fortnite. In a Fortnite event. You can look it up on YouTube. Look up Palpatine's message in Fortnite on YouTube. It's not in the movie. It's in Fortnite.
It's not in a book.
And Tait, I've had multiple people over the last 24 hours actually try to reason to me why that's okay. Why just having the text in the crawl is okay. And actually hearing the message for the first time in Fortnite is okay. How any of this is okay is just, I think, blasphemous. I think it is a crying shame, and I think anyone actually trying to justify any of this, I think seriously needs to reconsider what Star Wars is, what a basic storyline is. The day that we try to justify Palpatine's returning message to the galaxy coming from Fortnite instead of the actual film, the actual Skywalker saga finale film, this kind of behavior, this kind of apologist behavior for anything they do, I think in a couple decades could really spell the end of Star Wars. Not now, not soon, not in the immediate future, but this sets an incredibly, incredibly dangerous precedent for Star Wars. The moment we think it's okay for the franchise's greatest villain to return through Fortnite,
Ross, I want to bring up a...
This is the darkest timeline. This is the end.
Yeah, I want to bring up really quick. So I think a lot of people are being very childish and saying, "Oh, people are upset because Fortnite's a bad game," or people are like, "Oh, I want Fortnite to be dead." You know, these very in their own head, self-indulgent opinions of Fortnite. No, this could have been in Minecraft. This could have been in anything. If we are not given the essential information in the movie to understand the movie, and instead we have to play a Fortnite event,
Tait, I can't even believe this is a conversation we're having.
I mean, it is offensive, it is blasphemous, and it just shows the early stages of Star Wars dying. I mean, Star Wars
Tait,
is okay.
Imagine if you cut Order 66 from Revenge of the Sith and put it in a game.
Jesus Christ.
It's not in the film. It's in a game. Imagine... I mean... I can't even believe this is a discussion we're having. This is a nightmare. It really is. And I'm not overreacting. We're not overreacting. A major part of the Star Wars saga, the return of Palpatine, the return of the Empire, his new empire, is in Fortnite and not the movie. Tait, that's a real statement. That's a factual statement. This is real life.
Also,
this is Star Wars now.
I want to bring up that in the movie we do get Palpatine like 3 or 4 minutes in. And I don't understand why he can't just send out that message when he's introduced, man. But instead, of course, in a Fortnite event, like Ross is saying, and that is... Put Millennium Falcon in Fortnite, put an event in Fortnite, make it the movie, maybe have Palpatine's speech in Fortnite, but also put it in the movie. Right? Like I said, we'd be having the same conversation if it was in Battlefront 2, if it's in Minecraft, if it's in Borderlands for some reason. We're going to have these conversations no matter what it is. It would have been frustrating if this was in a book. Right? Speaking of books, Aftermath is no longer canon because of this complete fuck-up.
Wait, what?
Yeah, Aftermath is no longer canon because of all of the Palpatine stuff. Which to me
Is that's not an official thing. That's just inconsistent. That's just because it was rendered totally inconsistent and irrelevant.
I'm pretty sure it's official that Aftermath is no longer canon.
I'll have to look into that because if they are now pulling things from canon, we're in even more dangerous territory than I thought.
So I mean, things are getting pulled from canon. Things are getting removed. Fortnite events are happening instead of actual, events in the movie. I mean, it's just frustrating, man.
And listen, this is not overreacting. This is not overreacting. I couldn't believe my ears when I heard it. It's Ian McDiarmid doing the message and everything. I listen. I was already pretty crushed, just thinking about Rise of Skywalker. But then that,
What's the matter?
Because there's a shallow moment in the film where Poe walks. He goes back to Agent Kloss. He walks into their little temporary resistance base, and then he's like, "All right, guys, Palpatine is back." It's the most casual, underwhelming. He just walks into the room. And he's like, "Palpatine is back." It's not.
Do you know how you?
And the point, and that's where you play the message. That's where he pulls up the holonet and plays the message. However, it came through.
No, you make the holo table, right? You just have the projection right there, the message projection right there. It just invades them during a meeting, not even during a meeting, just during whatever they're doing, right? That's how you go about this. Not what they chose, man.
And Tate, we're just talking about the beginning of the film and Palpatine's message to the galaxy. When he actually gets to Exegol, and you hear Palpatine putting on the different voices, I had already seen what Palpatine was going to look like through various leaks. I kept up with the leaks, and I probably should have mentioned that to begin with. My experience with The Rise of Skywalker, thankfully, was full of... I already knew the whole film 80%, start to finish, and I'm so glad I did, because I would have been crushed if I actually made an effort to avoid spoilers, and this is what we got.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, when he walks up on Palpatine, and Palpatine is just there, just casually there, you haven't seen, and then he's just casually lifting the Star Destroyers from the ice. I mean, it is the most random, most absurd thing to wrap your head around that you're not eased into at all. It's not natural for the story at all. Palpatine was not meant to be the main sequel villain at all. No. It was clearly supposed to be Snoke. That's what he was setting up in The Force Awakens. Ryan butchered it, and they just rushed this so badly. It's a shame. I mean, and Kylo Ren walks in there. For one moment, he's talking about killing Palpatine too. The next, he's agreeing to go kill Rey for him. I mean, it is the most ridiculous sequence. And all the while, as he walks to Palpatine, you see a tube of Snoke's. As it's revealed that Snoke was just one of Palpatine's clones and essentially just a puppet that Palpatine was masquerading around as. And it is the most absurd bullshit to wrap your head around. I mean, it is... it's like getting hit by a freaking brick with this film. The film's first opening, the first act of Rise of Skywalker, it's like just banging your head into a wall, man. I mean, it's so bad.
The first act is unbearable. Luckily, though, I mean, as soon as we get on that moon of Endor, what is it, the ocean moon or whatever they call it?
Kefbur,
whatever. As soon as we get there, the movie actually, for I think 25, 30 minutes, is solid. The movie, it slows down, it's paced well, and you have this dark side struggle within Rey.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. This dark side struggle within Rey, it's very good, but they don't take it all the way.
No.
It is the most basic, safe, little Force vision of a dark side Rey. Imagine in the final battle, if Palpatine really does succeed, Rey cuts him down and becomes, Rey Palpatine. Imagine that, Ross. And Ben Solo, the rise of the Skywalker, has to kill her, the woman he loves. That'd be incredible.
That's way, way, way too risky. I mean, you can't kill Rey. You can't do something that risky. That's oh no, sir. But you can say that Rey, she came from the greatest evil. That's one thing I always thought about. I was like, there's no way they're going to make Rey a Palpatine. There's no way Rey's ever going to turn to the dark side, because Rey needs to be the perfect Disney mascot. And then JJ was just like, well, we don't have that option anymore, so I guess she's a Palpatine.
No, she is the perfect Disney mascot because despite being born of evil, she has love and compassion, and she's a good guy. If this movie were not made by Disney, Rey would have been possessed by Palpatine.
She barely even wrangles with the dark side.
Exactly. Oh,
her powers start becoming fully realized. She starts using the dark side, using abilities from the dark side, and she's still herself. Even though she zaps that transport with Force Lightning, she's still herself. Her eyes don't even turn yellow. I mean, it's like...
Well, no, I mean...
At no point does she ever...
She's not tempted in the slightest.
No. And, so... when you get to this moment where she's training on Octo, or Octo, same thing, right? All these planets, I swear, from the sequel trilogy just blend in. I just wind up saying random names of them. Agent Kloss. God. Agent Kloss, and that's where Rey is training. They had some scenes shot on the original Force Awakens Resistance base planet, or Takodana with Carrie Fisher, and that's why I imagine why they just went straight for another Force sequence to preserve Carrie in this film, which we'll get to. But Rey is training, and she's just floating with rocks, saying, "Be with me, be with me, be with me, be with me, be with me." And that's an important thing that I want to bring up. The Rey's opening scene. This will be important for the conversation toward the end. Rey's opening scene is her trying to directly contact and communicate the last generations of Jedi. JJ opens Rey's arc in the film with her directly trying to communicate and connect with the Jedi in the Force. Okay? Just want to plant that for later. And then she's on Agent Claw. She's doing this training sequence with the little orbs from A New Hope, but obviously I imagine an upgraded version, whatever. They're red now. She's running this course that they set up, and it's okay, but it's like... at least we got a training sequence, I suppose. It was okay.
We couldn't get that in the second movie, where heroes are supposed to shed their skin, supposed to shed what they are, and become a hero. Ross, I want to bring up something. I had a conversation last night with a couple buddies from the high school days, and one of them brought up a great point. He said that The Force Awakens was very inoffensive, but it was very basic, and he really dislikes the movie because of how basic it is and how much it relies on the trilogy. Going back and thinking about Force Awakens, I think Force Awakens is a fine film. But I like it less and less the more I think about the failures and the shortcomings of The Last Jedi.
I didn't really even like it when you and I rewatched it. I mean, when I say that, I mean I didn't like it as much as I remember I did in 2015 and 16.
Right. I think Force Awakens, though, oh my gosh, Ross, I think it's like an 8 out of 10, dude. I like that movie.
So...
I think I rated it above Return on my listing. Oh, we should watch that after our conversation.
100%, man. 100%. I have my list ready to go.
Oh, man. That would be bad.
Which is... yeah, my list is still very unpopular. But, I mean, there is some fun stuff in the opening sequence. Like, I really liked Poe pushing the Millennium Falcon past its limits and hyperspace jumping or hyperspace skipping.
Oh, that was I
thought that was a really fun idea. I actually really appreciated that sequence. And I liked how he did it. And he didn't just land back on Agent Kloss and the Falcon was fine. But the Falcon was totally on fire and breaking down, which I appreciated. Because if he just landed back on Agent Kloss, I was going to be so...
Can I say something really quick, Ross?
No, it was good.
So
yeah.
The Millennium Falcon is a character in Star Wars, 100%, especially after Solo.
Especially after Solo is right! Yeah.
But even besides Solo, because Solo sucks. The Millennium Falcon is very much a character in Star Wars. I mean, no two ways about it. It is just as important. I mean, it has more characterization than, 90% of the Last Jedi cast. But, the Millennium Falcon's a character. And in this movie, the Millennium Falcon is brilliant, I think. You have, like you said, the hyperspace skipping. You have the saving the Millennium Falcon, getting the Millennium Falcon back. And by the way, Hux, what an absolute waste of a character. That was disgusting. But anyway, you have all of these great scenes with the Millennium Falcon, dude, and then the end, the Lando scene where he saves Janna and Finn. I liked that a lot, man. The Falcon, definitely not a shortcoming in this movie. I thought it was great.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the Falcon was actually kind of used to the fullest.
Yeah, this is the full story for the Falcon, man.
There are things in the film, man, that are used to their fullest. I think what they were able to do with Kylo Ren, I think that's pretty much all they could do. I think, despite not getting a lot of Ben Solo at the end, Kylo Ren is taken. You get a lot of good screen time with Ben. You get. God, I think this is arguably C-3PO's best film.
Oh, I did not like C-3PO in this film, man.
I mean, I thought it was fun.
I need to bring that up really quick. That's really frustrating me, man.
Yeah.
The culmination of the original trilogy was, of course, a Skywalker defeating a Palpatine. And in a movie titled Rise of Skywalker, why can't that happen? And don't tell me it's Rey Skywalker. That's bullshit.
That was so bad.
I can't help but shake the idea. All the Sith live in Palpatine, whatever. I hate that motif, but let's say, all the Sith live in Palpatine. So, Palpatine possesses Rey after she slaughters him. It's Rey Palpatine in the fullest. And then Ben is powered up by Anakin, Luke, Leia. I just imagine seeing all of the Skywalkers overcoming this evil. That would have been so compelling, man. And it just frustrates me so much. If you're already going to copy Return of the Jedi with showing the hero, her friends dying, and pulling the whole compassion and hope card again, just go all the way with it, man. Just go all the way with it. I mean, I would have felt it to be a fulfilling conclusion if Ben Solo really did get to complete his family's mission. As much as I wanted Anakin to swoop in and save the day, I would have been satisfied with that.
Oh no! I mean,
I know that it's
if the Skywalkers were going to defeat everybody together, I do agree Ben should have been involved as well with Rey.
Dude, no, Nicholas, shut the fuck up. Ben is a Skywalker. His mother is Leia Skywalker. He's not, just because his dad is Han Solo doesn't make him any less of a Skywalker. No.
Yeah, no, that's not how bloodlines work.
I've seen that on Twitter so many times, so I'm sorry if you feel I'm being hostile towards you, Nicola. That it's I've seen this on Twitter a bunch. That is one of my most. That is one of the arguments I dislike most. Very, very most. I hate that argument. Because I've seen people, on Twitter be very serious, be very vocal. He's Ben Solo. He's no longer a Skywalker. He's part human. He's not all Force. Deity.
I mean, this is a criticism that I've seen also tossed around about Ben Solo's ultimate demise, and at the end is how it's exactly like Vader's, where just in concept, right? Overarching villain who's done horrible things, finds redemption, sacrifices himself to win the day.
Yeah.
And it would have been so much more interesting if you got the perspective of, oh no, he lives, but now the Resistance is going to lock him away indefinitely. And it's kind of like that idea of those fan theories, those fan fictions of what it would be like if Vader survived. They still have to be held responsible. You don't just get the happy ending where him and Rey go live off on a planet. No. He gets locked up. Possibly for good. And it would have been a compelling and very real way to end the Skywalker saga, or at least the Skywalker lineage with Ben's story at the end. But he just drops dead. And I guess, listen, man, I guess if we're just jumping to the ending, I have got to say, I was actually on board for a lot of Rise of Skywalker. Even though it was a rushed, contrived mess, it was at least exciting, as I started, mentioning earlier on. But then the moment they all go to Exegol to confront Palpatine, the film so completely lost me, it was sad.
It's when it turns into a
Disney film, man. It's when they cut to Rey confronting Palpatine. You have the whole confrontation sequence, all throughout the third act, just between them in that giant underground fortress. But Tait, first of all, it was already so bad, just having Palpatine alive, being a shell of a character, not being the Palpatine we remember, but in the worst of ways. Not because he died and came back, but because his dialogue is cartoony. Yeah. It's awful. There's nothing to Palpatine's character anymore. He's just, like you said earlier, he's a Disney trope, he's a Disney cartoon, a Disney villain. And he's not saying anything unique. He's not saying anything meaningful. He's just spouting recaps of the first 6 films. He's just spouting how Rey is weak and this and that. But the worst of it, for a hardcore Star Wars fan, being asked to believe that Palpatine not only survived and escaped to the unknown regions, but that out in the unknown regions, he amassed an army of thousands, tens of thousands of Sith acolyte cultists who have just been worshipping him out there for God knows how long. Who are they? What are they? Where do they come from? How does no one know about this? And to then also pile on top of that, separate from the First Order, Palpatine has been amassing his own separate Sith military that also consists of thousands and thousands and thousands of people and hundreds of Star Destroyers and thousands of fighters. What is going on here? The galaxy barely even knew who the Sith even were by the end of Return of the Jedi. Because that is the idea, that is the system Plagueis and Palpatine chose to go with. The Sith would no longer be a public force. And so I'm saying, even within 3 decades, it's bizarre. The worst of it is just trying to believe that many people were out living on this dark, cold planet, living and building and worshipping Palpatine and preparing for their return. Are you kidding me? Who is going to believe that? How stupid are we supposed to be? It was insulting. It was awful. And it's just trash, man. It's all Imperial ISDs, but with First Order officers, but they've got red stripes, red helmets. The Sith Troopers are red. Garbage. Get out of here. And you know what they freaking do? These Star Destroyers not only leap into action and position themselves all around the galaxy pretty much instantly, off-screen throughout the fight, but they've all got Death Star cannons on the bottom. Those cannons that we saw them all having in the trailers that we were all speculating about, like maybe just being able to inflict a lot of damage on a planet. No. They can just destroy a whole planet. They can just destroy a whole planet. They have the same exact power of the Death Star on the bottom of each of those Star Destroyers. Contrived and comes out of nowhere. Once again, relying on the super weapon trope. Enough. That is what I have to say as far as Disney-era Star Wars. Enough. It's insulting. It's insulting to the original 6 films. It's insulting to the series. It's massively insulting to George Lucas. It's massively insulting to any reasonable person that has been following these films since the beginning. To just come out with this film and say, oh yeah, Rey is a Palpatine. Because none of this even gets us to the explanation of Palpatine being her grandfather. The film doesn't explain anything to you. And no, it's not like what JJ says and, oh, it's good to leave some of it to the mystery. It's good to not have all the answers. No. This is contrived. This is nothing. This is garbage. This is unnatural. This is damage control. This is desperation. This is not a story. If your whole third act is going to rely on Rey being a Palpatine, and all you get after 6 films of following Palpatine and understanding all that he seeks out as power, to not get anything that, at least in the slightest, explains to you who her parents were, besides descendants of Palpatine. We don't know if they were clones. We don't know if he created his kid through the Force. We don't know which of Rey's parents were his kid. We don't know if it was the mother or the father.
Or both.
We don't know anything about them. We don't know.
No, so
It's garbage.
So this is very nitpicky, but something that needs to be brought up. Palpatine as a character is very inhuman, and giving him a family humanizes him, very much humanizes him, which takes away a lot of his character and a lot of his omnipotence and a lot of his, God status.
Palpatine he never cared about having it. Palpatine only ever cared about power. Nothing else but power.
Yeah.
If he had a family, it was intentional to create someone like Rey.
Yeah.
But they don't tell you that. They don't cover that. They don't even mention it. Yeah. They just give you they literally copy and paste. The dark side is a path to many abilities. They literally just paste it in from Revenge of the Sith. And have Ian McDiarmid say it again. And it is so insane. Because let's look at it from an in-canon perspective. Look at Rey's parents, okay? They're like, what, 25, 30? Okay. Rey is like, what, 5 to 10 years old when she's dropped off on Jakku? Okay. So 25 to 30 years before the moment in which she would have been dropped off on Jakku, 5 to 10 years after Return of the Jedi, places the birth of Palpatine's son or daughter well before the original trilogy, if they're not direct clones. And if they are Flash clones, then they would have just appeared right after Return of the Jedi. This is so nothing. It's such nonsense.
You're allowed to have Palp's kids and not explain them in movies prior, but we do need an explainer in this movie, man. We need something. And I mean, it's a really poor choice. As I said, it humanizes Palpatine to a large extent.
I mean, imagine having Darth Vader and getting to Return of the Jedi, and you don't get to know anything about Darth Vader and his relationship to the Emperor. They don't talk about it.
Yeah,
they don't explain it.
Darth Vader's far more important than Palpatine's kids are. In terms of narrative structure, Ross, Vader's a lot more important than Palpatine's kids are.
But that's not the point. If your whole third act relies on that connection, you have to cover some ground.
I disagree. I think
it's scary to disagree. If something like that is acceptable,
it's not
something
acceptable.
This bad is acceptable. That really sets a scary precedent for just any narrative.
It's not acceptable, but it's not unacceptable in the way that you're framing it. What makes it unacceptable is that it hurts Palpatine as a character, and it
completely hurts Palpatine as a character.
It reduces him as a character.
It regresses him to a cartoon. This whole film regressed him to a cartoon. He's no longer the incredibly complex character from the first 6 films. No. He was
never complex though in the original trilogy. Man.
He not in the original trilogy. No, not in Return of the Jedi. But I said original 6.
Right. I do want to say that if we are looking at and this is why I brought that point up. If we were looking at the original trilogy, then this is an okay evolution of Palpatine. I mean, this is a lot worse than he was in Return of the Jedi, but at least it's in character. We know a lot more than that about Palpatine. We have 3 movies where we get the rise of Palpatine, right? That makes that causes this dilemma, right? That causes this shift, that causes this frustration. If the prequels never happened, perhaps this would be okay. But the prequels are a thing, and they're shitting all over them with this.
I'm tired of it, man. I cannot stand it, because that's obviously a big thing, too, that we haven't even covered. And I guess I'll cover it now. No matter what anyone says, no matter what I think, no matter what you think, no matter what anyone thinks, the Star Wars saga, the canon Star Wars saga that this series, this trilogy, is directly connected to in the story, establishes that Anakin Skywalker is the chosen one, created by the Force to restore balance. The prophecy was not misinterpreted. The prophecy was not misread. George Lucas and Dave Filoni created a set of episodes in the Clone Wars to take us to a realm where our lead characters, Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka, encountered representations of the Force who deliberately confirmed to Anakin, the Force itself confirming to Anakin that he is the chosen one, that he is to bring balance. This is not up for debate. This is not what you choose to omit. This is canon. Revenge of the Sith is canon. The Clone Wars is canon. Again, it's not what you choose to admit. It's not what I think. It's not what you think. That is the Star Wars story. And Anakin fulfills the prophecy by destroying himself and Palpatine, thus bringing balance to the Force. And it is shocking to me, anyone who just chooses to omit that, because you get to this point where it's like, well, what can you just choose to omit? If you can, and that's why I think this trilogy is so broken, because they are just omitting things freely. They're just choosing to just leave out whatever they please, and it's so damaging because George Lucas spoke about this at length. The whole saga, the lead character of the saga is Anakin Skywalker. It is Darth Vader, and to not incorporate him into this final act, I thought was really atrocious.
Agreed. Yeah. The biggest shortcoming in the Star Wars story is, of course, shitting all over George Lucas's legacy. And I think it's more than a shame. It is depressing that we are in a state where whatever Disney says goes. Ross, I really don't have much to add to this dialogue. I mean, you're hitting it pretty well here. I want to bring up in closing, though, the dyad situation.
Oh my God!
I feel like it's a concept that would have been fine if it were introduced in a comic book, like an Old Republic era comic book.
It's repetitive. It's unnecessary when you already have the Chosen One.
It doesn't replace the Chosen One, man. I think that
it's not that it replaces the Chosen One. It's that it is excess. To just have the first 6 films be about the Force creating this one person to do this one thing several decades later, and to then be like, oh yeah, well now the Force has created 2 people at the same time a couple decades ago, and they're dyads in the Force. This is nonsense.
I don't think that's how it's supposed to be interpreted.
It's nonsense, man.
No, that's not how it's supposed to be interpreted. Right?
Well, that's how you described it to me when we spoke about this the first time, and that they were born at the same time.
No, they're born at the same time. It is complete coincidental, right? It's completely coincidental, but the Force links them because of that, right? The Force had no say in this besides linking them at birth. That is how I interpret it, and I feel like that's how it's supposed to be interpreted. I don't think the Force has a hand in creating them. I think it's 2 Force families having kids at the same time.
Right. I don't think the Force has any hand in creating them either. But that's the point is that it is just.
I think it's fine.
It's nonsense.
This is a big universe, man. This is a big universe, and a lot of things can happen.
But it's just another contributing factor to the story, just adding things in. That's not adding to the Star Wars universe. That's not contributing to the Star Wars universe. It's just adding it in to just explain it away last minute.
I think it does add to the Star Wars universe, but it doesn't need to be highlighted in a major film. I think that concept is extremely cool.
Again, let me just say this. I don't want to sound like one of those fans who's just not pleased with anything. That's not the point. I do appreciate that. I do appreciate JJ trying to say, okay, Rey's a Palpatine. They were dyads in the Force. You got to make it work somehow. I appreciate him trying. I do, but it's still broken. It still negates Anakin. It still negates Luke. It still doesn't respect the original 6 films because they were so desperate to have it make some modicum of sense.
I disagree. I really do, man. The dyad thing is super...
Then I think we watched a different film.
No, so the thing is with the dyad, it's just another part of the Force. The Force is huge, man. There's so much unexplained shit. I think the dyad thing was a last-ditch effort to connect Rey and Kylo.
Right, and that's why I don't care for it, and that's why I'm not supporting it.
As a concept, I like it. As a part of this movie, I do not. I think, as a concept, I find it extremely interesting, man, that 2 children can be born of the Force, and not born of the Force, but born independently and then linked through the Force. That's cool. It really is. When you look at the Star Wars mythos, right, as a whole, look back at the Old Republic era, right? Imagine how cool that would have been as an Old Republic story.
It's really difficult to compare, but especially when the Old Republic stories are so all over the place in Legends and are just kind of bonkers themselves and a completely separate animal.
Yeah.
But it's not that I don't mind the concept, Tate, it's that it's unearned.
It is unearned.
It's just ham-fisted in there, and then suddenly Palpatine is absorbing their dyad juice and just firing up at the Resistance fleet. That's basically what he does, man.
I know, but
and that's exactly what he does. And then he shoots it up into the sky, and he wipes out the freaking nonsense fleet. And that fleet looked so great in the trailers, right? Everybody's all for the Falcon leading up the most idiotic-looking formation of ships I've ever seen in my life. And in Star Wars universe, and it's just so it's so nothing.
I hated that. I hated that when we saw it, and I hate it now.
Dude, I hated it more in the film than the trailers. Yeah, because imagine we talked about this. Imagine Return of the Jedi or any major Star Wars space sequence. Imagine Rogue One, where you don't get to see anyone inside those ships, where you just see those in the X-wings and nothing else.
Yeah.
They amassed the biggest fleet of civilian ships that Star Wars has ever seen. The Star Wars galaxy showed up to save the day.
Yeah.
And they were all those thousands of ships were nothing but just CG nothing. They were just CG models.
Oh, yeah.
And it was awful.
Now,
the Ghost was in there. The Razor Crest was in there. One of the freaking giant command ships from Resistance was in there. Wookiee gunships were in there. So many ships were in there. And you don't get to see a single one of the people.
I want to say that you either have to, no, not either. You have to show the people inside the gunships, but the least they could have done is made them compelling. All of the ships, man, were gray. Same in the trailer, they were gray. The Ghost is not gray in the Rebels cartoon. The Wookiee gunships are not gray in the Clone Wars or in...
Star Wars. Yeah, everything is blue and gray.
Everything is blue and gray. That was such a slap in the face. Right?
God, I mean, what if they actually had a vision, right? Like Marvel. What if they actually had the right people? What if they actually had the time? What if they actually had the coordination and the right scheduling? Imagine if they took this sequence to the fullest, right? And they didn't bring Palpatine back necessarily, but they had him inhabit somebody else's body. Like you suggest, they had him inhabit Rey's body briefly, or maybe even Ben's, or whatever. But then in that fleet, you do get to briefly, the people they do show you, you do get to see Jason Solo, Hera's son. You do get to see Wookiees inside that gunship. You do cut to whatever ship you want, but it is a celebration of the saga, like Endgame.
What the fuck?
Oh yeah, it's not a depressing, cold, hard ending, but it's a celebration. It's, and it's like, to go back to what I said earlier about Rey directly trying to communicate with the Force spirits. This is JJ's idea. This is what he pins Rey's whole story on. This is in the film. Rey trying to connect with Force spirits and speak with them, learn from them, talk to them. That's what she's trying to do. Would it not make sense to get to the end of the film and have them all reveal themselves? Have all of the Jedi step in for the final fight of the Jedi and the Sith. In that moment, you have the Skywalkers assemble for one final fight against the Sith to rid the galaxy of this evil once and for all. And it has been established that Force spirits can manipulate the physical plane. Yoda called down lightning, and Luke lifted the X-Wing out of the water.
And grabbed the lightsaber,
And grabbed the lightsaber.
Yeah.
So, the ideal sequence, because JJ set Rey up to want to connect with the Force spirits, and because Star Wars is about the Skywalkers, and because Star Wars is about family, you have the Force spirits reveal themselves as Rey is being defeated by Palpatine. Anakin Skywalker appears. It's Hayden Christensen. DH him if you need to. Whatever. It's Ashley Eckstein and Ahsoka Tano. Maybe not her. Maybe they finally cast someone. It's Obi-Wan Kenobi. They got Ewan McGregor. Liam Neeson has come back, DH, to play Qui-Gon Jinn. Same for Sam Jackson. Yoda as well. They've got the puppet. You bring in as many fully realized versions of the Jedi as you can. So you've got your Shakti. You've got your Ayla Secura, your Luminar Unduli. Ayla and Luminar and Adi Gali are already in the film as just disembodied voices. You have all of that. You have the Jedi assemble for one final fight, but then it's revealed because Palpatine is the greatest Sith to ever live. He too has figured out a way, despite everything we know, to reconnect with all the essences of the fallen Sith from previous generations. And suddenly a fully realized canon version of Plagueis shows up, of Tenebris, of Malik, of Vitiate, of Bane, the founder of the Rule of Two, Nihilus.
Sick.
They all reveal themselves, and it is one final battle of the Jedi and the Sith for the Force and the galaxy itself. Have the fight play out however you so choose between Palpatine, Rey, and Ben. And it's not like it has to be with Endgame where you're going around the room showing them all constantly. You can show them all once and then have them all disperse into the background. Yoda's fighting Plagueis. You could have Tenebris fighting Windu. Anakin is holding off Vitiate. It could be a complete celebration of everything that makes Star Wars so great and everything we love about these Force users.
Yeah, but I'm gonna be honest with you, dude. I feel like that completely shits on the concept of a Force ghost. But at the same time, this movie already did that.
No, but then to culminate the scene, I'm not done. To culminate the scene, you've got the Skywalkers stepping in to finish it. Anakin, Luke, and Leia help Rey, whether they place their shoulders on her, they place their hands on her shoulder, or they give her power, or what have you. The Skywalkers together as a family defeat Palpatine. Because it's already been established that everything they set up in The Force Awakens, that Rey is a nobody, that she only relies on herself, that she's independent, they already threw all that out the window with this film by making her a Palpatine. So now, rekindling what Star Wars is all about and having it be about family, the Skywalkers' family in particular, would have created the perfect final battle. Because then you get to that Tatooine sequence, and when Rey accepts, when she takes on the name of Skywalker with Luke and Leia's blessing, it's earned. It makes sense. Tait, this film could have been so much better. This final battle could have been so much better. It could have been done so much better without taking a shit on the rest of the saga.
Yeah, Ross, I'm sorry, dude, but I think having Force ghosts fight Sith ghosts shits on the saga a little bit because they're supposed to have transcended beyond that. I think.
But I mean, at the same time, considering we were arguing about how the Force is massive and it's a huge universe. Why the hell not? Why would you not?
No, I feel like that ruins what George was going for with the whole point. The whole point of Jedi are supposed to be those fantastical wizards, and the Force Ghost is supposed to be true and pure serenity. right? And then I think that
but I think it would actually add to the saga and to the universe if it's revealed that Palpatine has discovered another side of that.
I would think, and this is how I would want it to be played through, if we're talking about a final battle.
And listen, you can cut all of that out.
Yeah.
All of that. If you want to cut you don't want to do it, fine. Cut the Force Spirit, fine. At least have Anakin, Luke, and Leia, the Skywalkers, finish the Skywalker saga and defeat Palpatine. 100%. You don't want to do the Force Spirits, and you want to lose all the fanboy stuff and the celebration of the saga, fine. But just at least do that.
I think the celebration of the saga would be the Skywalkers coming together. And
but to have none of this.
Right, yeah. Like I've said, dude, I mean, the movie's called Rise of Skywalker. Make Ben the one who brings balance, right? Or not even brings balance, but stops this threat. Have Palpatine possess Rey. You get this fight, and I know everybody was speculating she's going to turn bad and he's going to turn good, but so what? Just run with that. Make his family, come back to protect him. Maybe he kills Rey and then he force heals her, and you can have that same ending. Something, but there needed to be some sort of connection of the saga, because this felt so disconnected. This needed to go back and respect George Lucas's work, and it just simply didn't.
No.
Having the Force Ghost trio of Luke, Leia, and Anakin would have been perfect. And also, maybe because we know that Force Ghosts are very physical, maybe Leia has some sort of comeuppance. This is her first time meeting her father, right? You can play something in that sense. How interesting would that have been? I would have appreciated that. But I mean, like I've said very many times, this felt very disconnected from Star Wars, man. This was just generic Disney space movie.
It's the sequel trilogy is a continuation. It's not a continuation. It's an extension. It's a branch that can and should be clipped. It
feels like alternate universe to me.
It really does. I mean, and listen, let me talk about the actual scene they did do, right, with all the Force Spirits. They are in the film, right? Of course, you got that scene. It's not that the scene is not in there, but it's literally just the disembodied voices. Now, let me just say this. I appreciate them doing this at all. They brought in Hayden Christensen, Ewan McGregor, Ashley Eckstein, Jennifer Hale as Aayla Secura, the actress who played Luminara Unduli, and the actress who played Adi Gallia, all three from the Clone Wars. They brought in Freddie Prinze Jr. as Kanan Jarrus. I mean, you've got Samuel Jackson as Mace Windu, Frank Oz as Yoda. I mean, it is a wild thing to also not only hear that, but then also Liam Neeson as Qui-Gon. And they are talking, and Anakin is saying, let the Force lift you, restore balance as I once did. Qui-Gon saying, we stand behind you, Rey. Mace Windu saying, all of the Jedi live within you now. You're hearing all the Jedi say Rey's name. They are there. They are there. Not in a physical sense, because they're just not that interested, I guess. But they are in the film. They are there in the background supporting Rey. You do get that scene where she's looking up to the stars and you hear all of them. And listen, Tate, I appreciate it. Mm-hmm. Again, I don't hate all of this film. I appreciated this happening at all. Ahsoka is freaking in the film. She gets to say Rey. We now know Ahsoka died at some point. Thank God. Her story's gone on way too long. And hearing Hayden Christensen saying those lines, that was incredible. Hearing Hayden Christensen portray Anakin, again, that was incredible. Hearing Sam Jackson again was incredible. Hearing Ewan McGregor play Obi-Wan, incredible. The fight over Kef Bir over the Death Star ruins, incredible. The emotional gravity of that scene, amazing. The scene where they pull the transport out of the sky and seemingly think that they killed Palpatine, that was one of the greatest displays of the Force that we've had on screen in a long time. I mean, there are amazing things all throughout this film. but there are more distractingly bad things.
Yeah.
It's an exciting mess of a film to watch. And one thing I do want to kind of make sure we address is, of course, Carrie Fisher's inclusion in the film. Now, all this time after Carrie's passing, JJ and Lucasfilm were discussing how they would not be attempting a digital recreation like Tarkin and Leia in Rogue One. To respect Carrie, because you cannot replicate Carrie, they would not be attempting a digital recreation, but instead they would be using unused footage from The Force Awakens, and they had adjusted the script to write around that footage so that they could include it. And listen, I understand. Of course. We've all grown up on Star Wars. We all loved Carrie Fisher. But listen. After seeing this film and seeing how desperately they tried to force that footage into it, Tait, they redressed her with CG clothes, they moved her around, they put her in other scenes. I could not help but wonder what Carrie might have thought of what they did here. A character that defined so much of her life had to have her story end in a rather bizarre way with this unused footage that really is distracting and a body double. It makes me wonder what she would have thought. Personally, of course, we didn't know her personally. None of us did. But with her daughter and her brother's blessing, I think a digital recreation was necessary here for at least one proper concluding scene. It's hard, man, because the wound is still fresh, right? I do agree that with that deleted footage, they did do the best they could. It wasn't good footage. And it's hard. There's no winning here. But if The Rise of Skywalker is all about essentially making the best of a horrible situation with the story of these films and the passing of Carrie, I think they could have done a lot to conclude Leia's story properly. And of course, one thing I should make very clear: you can't recreate Carrie Fisher. You can't have her spirit, have her essence on screen. It'll never happen again. Of course not. Of course not. It's a shitty situation. It sucks all around. But it was distracting. I mean, this 2014 footage of Carrie, she was looking clear over Rey's head. She was talking about random things. The body double was noticeable every time it was used. It was literally used for the final shot, whoever it was. I don't know what to say, Tait. It was a super conflicting thing because it's depressing, and no matter how you look at it, of course. But those are just kind of my thoughts. I don't necessarily have a conclusion. I don't necessarily know if a digital recreation would have solved anything. There was no winning, but I figure, of course, it's worth talking about because it is the last time we will ever get to see Carrie Fisher on screen as Leia in the Star Wars series.
I have no input here. I really have no input at all.
Yeah.
I'm not offended by it. I just don't have an opinion. You know, I don't really have a structured opinion here on Carrie Fisher's inclusion in the movie. What a tragedy, though. I mean,
yeah,
the body can only take so much, man, and it can only handle so much abuse, and it's just such a shame that such a wonderful actress, such a wonderful person had to fall, man. Had to fall into an addiction, and it's just stay safe out there, viewers. Stay safe. Substance is a real thing.
Yeah. Other things, the Knights of Ren amounted to practically nothing except for a couple fight scenes, and we're essentially all being redirected to the comics and to a visual dictionary that we can get at Barnes & Noble for the rest of the story.
May I for a second, Ross?
Yeah.
Knights of Ren comic book just came out recently. The Knights of Ren are a dark side cult. They do not believe in the Sith. They do not believe in the light side. They believe in the shadow. And the shadow, of course, is Palpatine, but they believe in the shadow.
Which is curious because they don't believe in the Jedi or the Sith, and they're serving Palpatine. Which they're just totally separate. It's interesting they have their own perspective.
Right. We don't get that at all in this film. We don't.
Nope.
We don't know why Kylo Ren. So in the comic,
Kylo Ren doesn't even talk to them.
No. In the comic, there's a character called the Ren, and he's the leader of the Knights of Ren. I'm assuming Kylo takes him, kills him, and they respect Kylo. But we need some sort of explainer. We need some sort of reason as to why they're not using Force powers, because we do know canonically they have them. There's a lot of issues, man. A lot of issues with the Knights of Ren, just because of the fact that they've been given nothing. If they're a really cool dark side cult, make them Palpatine's cult, right? Mm-hmm. And go all the way with that. Make Palpatine the King of Ren, or something, and make all of those followers in that super shitty throne room sequence. I hated the throne room sequence with like the thousands and thousands of followers.
That was so dumb.
Make them the Ren. You know what I mean?
Tate, this, as we expected, this was an exhausting experience, and I'm actually going to see the film again at 6:30. Tate, honestly, it's to appreciate the things that I did like, and to just kind of be more informed about the experience, so that I know what the hell I'm talking about when discussing it, and because of course it does still matter.
In closing, I like The Last Jedi more. I'm just kidding. No. This film is at least competent in terms of technicality, besides story technicality.
I
have nothing to add. There's lists and thousands of nitpicks. Poe using R2 in the final battle. R2 not being part of the cast as they move along. Instead of R2, we get D-O. That was weird.
D-O was dumb. I don't care what anyone says. That was a dumb droid. I didn't care for it at all.
Yeah. Could have just
been. And he had a weird human voice. It was stupid. Should have left that out. God, dude. And his Sith Acolyte Master, what's his name? Like
Dickhead McGee?
Coochie or whatever the hell his name was. It sounds something like that. It is. And it was so dumb. The one who killed Rey's parents just
Senator
stole. He stole. Yeah, Senator Tucci stole their ship, went off to Pisana, and got eaten by a snake. And that's what happened to the guy who killed Rey's parents. Okay.
The little blue lady from.
Yeah. Order Platonia. Yep.
Dude, this film.
Hey, Billy D. Williams was great. Got to get that in there. For his limited screen time, he was fantastic.
85 years old, and he's still the same old Lando Calrissian we fell in love with.
What a guy.
Oh my god. I mean, dude, he is Lando.
Yeah.
He will always be Lando. I mean, how
100%.
incredible is that?
Really cool guy, man. And he had a great scene with Poe when Poe is mourning over Leia. Love that. I love that. There are scenes in the film to love, man.
Chewie was not.
Oh my god, Chewie was great in the film, and his reaction to Leia's death, that was really raw. That hit. That was well done.
Yeah, should have had that reaction with Han Solo.
I know, right?
Leia. Jesus Christ, dude, it's things like that show JJ's not a Star Wars fan. You know, that situation, I mean, that is one of the biggest mistakes with The Force Awakens.
Listen, man, I mean, it's the little things that show JJ's not a Star Wars fan. Using Sith wayfinders instead of just, maybe a holocron, ignoring the Chosen One prophecy, ignoring the main story of the first 6 films, just because he doesn't like it or he wants to omit it.
Complaining about midichlorians, even though they're not offensive at all.
I hate even entertaining the midichlorian conversation at this point. It is such a nothing, no big deal concept that people just took to town. I rewatched Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones recently, and it is just so the midichlorians are so inconsequential, and the whole discussion is so hypocritical that people aren't okay that you can measure the Force, and that you can tell somebody's worth in the Force based on a count of cells, but you are still okay with people just being naturally born with abilities being better than everyone else and always being the heroes for the most part. Like, it is such a stupid conversation. So irrational. And so much of this discourse is irrational, and that's why I really never participate in it. Outside of this podcast and a few tweets here and there. I mean, this is just... Tait, I am looking forward to watching clips of the film. After,
like I like watching Star Wars scenes and clips. There's no scene in this movie that really stands out to me, man.
I number one want to see the Kef Bird duel with music. That's a big one for me. I really want to see what that sounds like with a mashup of Final Duel, Duel of the Fates, Battle of the Heroes. If somebody can actually put together and craft a really fantastic remix of those 3 tracks, I think that could prove to be something really special.
We don't get that in the movie, though. Thanks, John Williams.
Yeah, man. So I'm gonna go watch the film again. It seems like watching the film a second time, everybody's experience is they liked it a little more, or they just absolutely realize why they don't. It seems like it's one or the other.
I will say, though, I'm very glad that this movie is so divisive. And it's divisive in a positive way, not a negative way. The Last Jedi was divisive.
Right. I mean, you've got a lot of people now who are reflecting on this trilogy and realizing that even those who supported The Last Jedi have been played as well.
Yeah.
A lot of the Last Jedi supporters have turned around and realized this was actually a mess.
Conversations on this movie are respectful, which is one of the...
Well, there's certainly, you still have the ugly side. I mean, it's still there.
Side, but not nearly to the degree of Last Jedi.
Still have some really disgusting, nasty, sick things being said to people, but...
one was said to a close friend of Ross's. It was not okay. No,
I mean...
the slightest.
If you enjoy the film, please continue to enjoy it. Please continue to support Star Wars. Please guarantee Star Wars a future. Regardless of what we think, Star Wars deserves to continue. And if you liked it, please continue to do so. Whether we're a part of it or not. Whether we can stand to enjoy the future Star Wars projects or not, Star Wars deserves a future, even if we're not a part of it. Even if we're not there to support it like we used to.
Well, I feel like Ross is very diehard. Far more than I am.
Dude, Star Wars completely... I mean, Star Wars is massively influential on my life. And it has been since 2005. Every day since. I mean, Star Wars has been my life. It has been really my North Star, my cornerstone of inspiration. Everything that I love is sourced from Star Wars in some way. Everything. So yeah, I care.
Yeah, no, you should care. You should care, Ross. I'm just saying, I'm more on the side of the fan base. It's like, if the movie's bad, I'll just go read my Plagueis books. I'll read Dark Disciple. I'll read the good ones. I will experience Star Wars through a shield. Right, I won't get excited about anything. I'll just enjoy what I enjoy.
No, I'm 100% in that boat now.
Yeah, it's a good boat to be in, man. You don't get disappointed.
I'm done. Yeah, I'll continue to be excited for Marvel, but I'm done. As far as getting excited for Star Wars and expecting something, I'm done.
Yeah.
This was it. I am looking forward to the Clone Wars, of course. The final season of my favorite show of all time that shaped my teenage years and really developed. A lot of really who I am creatively and artistically. It's finally coming to a close, and I will be there for it every single week as they wrap it up on Disney Plus. Finally, it is a dream come true. Still, I'm going to make a showcase for it. It's going to be a good time, but I will never walk into any Star Wars project again with expectations. And Tait, one thing I thought was noticeable this time. At the beginning of the showing, no one clapped for the Lucasfilm logo.
Oh, yeah.
In all of Disney-era Star Wars, I've never experienced that. The moment that Lucasfilm logo shows up, just like Marvel, people roared and clapped and cheered in The Force Awakens, for Rogue One, and The Last Jedi. But not this film.
Wow. That is telling, to say the least.
It's very telling. And so that is where we leave Star Wars for this decade. For 2019.
Gosh, that was very dramatic and that was very melodramatic Star Wars, man. Here we leave Star Wars.
It wasn't. It hasn't been a nice conversation, man. But it's been honest.
No, it is not.
It has been honest. And if you shy away from all of negativity, if you shy away from everything that you don't like, and you pass everything off and just accept things like this, I mean, nothing ever changes.
Well, you know what, Ross? Let's talk a positive. I want to bring up a positive. I want to bring up my
yeah, man. Again, I hate to be be this negative. Right. It's not fun, but it's honest.
I want to bring up my viewing experience of The Rise of Skywalker, because as much as I hated this film, god damn did I have fun. So I went with my good friend Steven. And the entire time we were just poking each other on the shoulder, laughing about dumb shit in the movie, complaining.
Again, man, it is a fun and exciting mess.
But man, did Latavius Calrissian really save everybody in the end? Oh my god. I mean, the world was saved by the most powerful man in existence. Yeah.
At least people can go watch. At least people can go watch this mess, man, and have a good time with friends and family. That's still valuable. That's still important, regardless of how atrocious the film story is. At least that movie-going experience is preserved, and that people can still have it regardless with this film.
Remember that Latavius saved the world with his 500,000 kids. Remember that, because that is the joke that stuck with me most.
Yes,
Ross,
sir.
This is a big inside joke because Steven just entered the chat. I am so sorry, but
no.
Hilarious. Oh my god, we were howling. Dude, I think there was a couple next to us like making out, and I think they were pissed at us for being so loud. Oh man, it was.
I will never understand people who make out in movies,
especially like a Star Wars high octane movie.
Like there could not be a worse place to do it.
Yeah.
Where you can't see each other, you can't hear each other, you can't enjoy each other's company. I've never understood that.
Sometimes you just need a little kiss. I mean, that's how Latavius had his 500,000 kids to invest that Starfleet. So
yeah, man.
Gosh.
Well, guys, thank you for watching our not even discussion, but borderline debate.
Not even debate.
Regarding
on the same side here.
The final chapter of the Skywalker saga. God, this better be it.
All right, guys. You know what? I have a new closing line, Ross. I just thought of one.
Oh boy.
All right. Well, not yet because we got to close up. But oh my gosh, I have a treat for you, Ross. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching. Closing thoughts. I'm looking forward to Mando episode 8 next week.
Yep. And by this time next week, my mini Rise of Skywalker showcase will be up. Despite all of this, I did make Rey, and I am really proud of the figure. I've been working on it for the last couple of weeks, and I updated Kylo Ren's helmet, and you will see all of that in a mini showcase that I'm hoping I might even have up by tomorrow.
That would be awesome. That would be super rad.
Yeah, I'm finishing up Rey's Skywalker saber now, and then gonna do a Clone Wars Season 7 showcase next year, and that'll probably and also be doing Mandalorian. And then those three projects, man, are probably going to be a Star Wars wise for me for a long time.
Are you making like the main cast, like the main three, or are you going to do
no
a batch?
Just Mando and Baby Yoda.
Oh, but I mean for Clone Wars.
For Clone Wars, yeah. Clone Wars definitely in Ahsoka, definitely Maul, and a few clones for maybe figures. It's going to be pretty. I'm going to try to put together a pretty cool video.
Dude, his Bad Batch looks incredible.
Yeah.
Oh my god, please.
I don't know if the Bad Batch will be in it, but it's more so going to be a celebration of the Siege of Mandalore.
Yeah. That's the most important part of the Clone Wars. That's the culmination of the Clone Wars series, man. When you really think about it.
Yes, sir.
But guys, remember, Greedo shot first because I'm a dickhead. I don't know.
Was that it?
No, that wasn't my closing line.
Oh!
No, dude, I hate that discussion has been brought back. Why? People brought it back, man. It's really frustrating. The whole Han and Greedo shit.
I have never given any less shits about something like that in Star Wars. I've never cared.
People send each other death threats over that, dude. I don't understand why Reddit's bringing it back. I hate it so much. God. All right, Ross. Do we have anything else to add? Are we done?
I'm done.
Are we good? All right, guys. Well, here's my closing line. Guys, bring balance to the Force as I once did. Thank you so much for watching.
Take care.